Once upon a time, in the grand kingdom of Vijayanagar, there was a wise and witty man named TENALIRAMAN. He was known far and wide for his cleverness, and King Krishna Dev Rai often called upon him to solve tricky problems. TENALIRAMAN had a way of thinking that was quick and sharp, and he always had a smile on his face no matter what situation he was in. One bright sunny morning, a famous sculptor named Chandran arrived at the royal palace. He was carrying a large, covered bundle under his arm and looked very excited. "Your Majesty, I have created something truly marvelous," he announced as he stood before the king and his court. The king, curious as always, asked, "What is it, Chandran? What have you brought for us today?" The sculptor grinned widely. "It is a statue, Your Majesty, a statue that can talk." The courtiers gasped in shock. A talking statue? That sounded too good to be true. King Krishna Dev Rai, intrigued, leaned forward in his throne. "A talking statue?" he repeated. "Are you sure? How can a statue talk?" Chandran nodded confidently. "Yes, Your Majesty. I have used a special secret technique, and when you speak to the statue, it will answer you. It can answer any question, and even tell stories, sing songs, and laugh." The king was excited, but he wasn't one to be easily fooled. "I see," said the king, stroking his beard thoughtfully. "But I'll need to see this for myself before I believe it. Bring the statue here, and let's see if it really talks." Chandran, with a proud smile on his face, uncovered the bundle. There, standing on the platform, was a beautiful statue of a man in a sitting position, carved out of white marble. It looked so lifelike that it almost seemed like the man could get up and walk away at any moment. "Now, Your Majesty," said the sculptor, "ask the statue anything. It will answer you." The king was very eager to see if the statue would really talk. "All right, let's test it. Statue, tell me, what is the secret to being a great king?" he asked with a smirk. For a moment, there was complete silence. The courtiers leaned forward, their eyes wide, waiting for the statue to speak. But nothing happened. The statue remained still and silent, just like a normal statue. The king frowned. "Well, it seems that this statue does not know how to talk after all," he said, glancing at Chandran. "You have wasted my time with this trick." Chandran began to sweat. "No, no, Your Majesty, please give me a moment. The statue will speak. It needs some time to warm up." The courtiers were starting to chuckle, but TENALIRAMAN, who was standing at the back of the room, couldn't help but feel a little curious. He had seen many clever tricks in his life, but this one had piqued his interest. He walked up to the king and whispered, "Your Majesty, perhaps the statue needs a little help from someone who knows how to get things talking." The king raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean, Raman?" he asked. TENALIRAMAN smiled mischievously. "Let me try something, Your Majesty," he said. The king nodded, allowing Raman to take the stage. With a wink, Tenali walked up to the statue and gave it a small tap on the head. Then, in a loud and dramatic voice, he said, "O wise and powerful statue, I have come to ask you a very important question. Will you answer me?" The courtiers looked at each other, puzzled. The king leaned forward, his eyes twinkling. Suddenly, something strange happened. To everyone's surprise, the statue spoke. But instead of a wise, deep voice, it came out in a silly, sing-song tone. "Why, of course, I will answer you. But first, you must dance with me." The courtiers gasped in shock. The king looked at the statue, his mouth hanging open. "What is this nonsense?" he exclaimed. "A talking statue that asks for a dance?" The courtiers were in fits of laughter. Even the sculptor was shocked. But Tenaliraman, ever the quick thinker, wasn't done yet. "Ah, Your Majesty," he said, "the statue is simply testing your dancing skills. After all, who doesn't love a good dance, especially when it's from a living, breathing statue?" The king, though puzzled, decided to play along. He stood up from his throne and began to shuffle his feet, moving awkwardly in a funny little dance. The courtiers burst into laughter, cheering on the king's impromptu performance. Meanwhile, Tenali whispered to the statue, "Now, let's see if you can do more than just sing silly songs." As if on cue, the statue began to speak again, in a clear voice this time. "Ha! Well done, Your Majesty. You have danced with grace, but now I shall answer your question. The secret to being a great king is to always surround yourself with wise people like Tenaliraman." The courtiers laughed even louder. "This statue knows what it's talking about," they said. King Krishna Dev Rai was still trying to make sense of it all. He looked at Tenali, who was grinning widely. "Raman, I think this statue is more than just a piece of art. What is going on here? How's it speaking?" the king asked, his eyes twinkling with curiosity. Tenaliraman smiled. "Ah, Your Majesty, I think you will enjoy this. But before I explain, I need to ask the statue one more question." The king nodded, eager to see what Tenali would do next. Tenali stepped forward again and said, "O wise statue, tell me, what do you think of Chandran, the sculptor who made you?" The statue, now speaking in a deep, booming voice, replied, "Chandran, oh Chandran, the sculptor who thinks he's so clever. He promised a talking statue, but all I do is sit and stare. He's a good artist, but not a very good magician." The courtiers burst into laughter. Even Chandran himself couldn't help but chuckle at the statue's funny remark. "Well, at least it's honest," he said with a grin. Tenali, with a twinkle in his eye, turned to the king. "You see, Your Majesty, the statue is not really magical at all. It's all part of a clever trick." I placed a small hidden speaker inside the statue's base, and the real talking is happening through a voice that's controlled by me, Tenali said, laughing. The king, realizing he had been tricked, broke into hearty laughter. Raman, you are truly a master of wit and humor. You've turned a simple trick into a grand show. As for you, Chandran, you have quite the imagination. Chandran, though a little embarrassed, joined in the laughter. Well, Your Majesty, I must admit, I didn't expect this turn of events. But it's all in good fun. Tenaliraman winked at the sculptor. Chandran, I think you have a talent for creating statues. But next time, leave the talking to the humans. The king clapped his hands, pleased with the turn of events. Raman, once again, you've saved the day with your wit and wisdom. I'm glad I have you by my side. And so, the courtiers continued to laugh, and the king praised Tenali for his cleverness. As for the talking statue, it became a famous attraction in the palace, but only because of the fun trick that Tenali had played. From that day on, whenever someone came to the palace asking about the talking statue, the courtiers would smile and say, "It only talks when Tenaliraman is around." Moral of the story: cleverness and quick thinking can turn tricky situations into moments of laughter and joy. And sometimes, a little humor is the best way to solve a problem. If you enjoyed this story and found it interesting, please like this video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. Your engagement helps us create more content that resonates with you and our community. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, keep reading, keep growing, and never stop exploring.